All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, salutations to the hopeful elect that's fighting the good fight of faith and truth and sincerity and wholeheartedly. Shalom to the Akwath, which is the women believers. Shalom unto you. And I just want to talk about this damn devil. You got to understand, he haven't got away. And he have to pay. He got to pay. When you really start looking into the history, I'm talking about the history that's actually that you could research and it shows. So the history that you could actually attain. So you could just imagine the history that we don't have. But the history that we do have is egregious. Thinking about after slavery, so-called after slavery, right? So really was a transfer to the state. Went from slave owners to slave to the state. But that actually was worse than the slavery in the field. So hopefully I can get all my thoughts together with this lesson. So anyways, Ecclesiastes 3:15. So that which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been, and the Most High requireth that which is past. And that's the point that I wanted to get in the scripture, because you don't get away with nothing. And Esau have done so much. The things that we are actually, the information that we have, the things that we've seen, that's already bad. But the things that we haven't seen, the things that he is doing to this day with the foods, with the things that he do with the clothes. Like this dude is an evil scientist. He do everything to destroy us. But the things that we are actually able to see and read about, that is egregious. So he have to pay for that. So it's a little documentary called Slavery by Another Name, going to peonage, which is debt slavery. And then you have something called convict leasing. If you watch the documentary The 13th, which talking about the 13th Amendment, which you have loopholes in that. And that's where the convict leasing started happening. So right after, so-called being released from slavery in 1865, or 1868, I think it's 1865 though. But right after that, that's when the convict leasing started to boom. The prison system started to boom. And then they created all kind of laws to keep us down. You wasn't allowed to speak loudly around white women. You wasn't allowed to spit. You wasn't allowed to be idle. You couldn't just stand in one spot for a long period of time. That's where you get loitering from. You wasn't jaywalking, something petty as that. So all these laws that's even here today started with Jake. So imagine not being allowed to spit. And then going back to slavery, they had the laughing barrel. You wasn't allowed to laugh. And if you did laugh, well, the slaves, if they had to laugh, they would put their head in a barrel. So imagine that a natural emotion that you have, you weren't even allowed to do that. Then the black laws, dealing with my boy Jim Crow. All right. Can't wait to see him. I hope I get a chance to put my hands on Jim Crow. But anyway, so with the Jim Crow laws and the black laws, black laws, you wasn't allowed to own, lease, or buy land. And then, the Jim Crow laws, you just was in the worst of the worst. Segregation. Had, your own water fountains, your own stores, which was just rat infested, dirty water. It just goes on and on and on. So the Lord said he required which is past. The Lord don't forget. See, the Lord, he don't sleep. He's eternal. He remembers like it was yesterday. Matter of fact, 1 Peter 3:8 said that a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years a day. So it haven't even been a day since you've done this to the apple of his eye. Matter of fact, let's get that. So, for thus saith Yahweh of hosts, after the glory have he sent me unto the nations which spoil you, for he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. So, just like us down here, if you really love your children, if somebody touch your children, oh, you gonna go off. So how much more the Most High? See, the thing is, let's go back a chapter. So everything that I'm speaking about, it all comes down to this scripture right here. Zechariah 1:15. I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. And the reason that you are at ease is because of the labor of our backs until this day. The reason that Babylon the Great is still flourishing is because of Jake. And it said, for I was a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. So going back to so-called being led out of slavery, which was just a transfer, that's what emancipation means, into the state hands. And the state treated you like trash too. Imagine you walking down the street and they could just grab you up and put convictions on you. That's where, convict leasing come from. You look a white man in the eye, you go to jail. You look at a white woman, you go to jail. You spit, you go to jail. You cross the street, you go to jail. You sit still, you go to jail. And this is the most heinous laws out of all of them, at least to me. It's a law called vagrancy, which means that you went to jail if you ain't have a job. So imagine this. You get out of slavery, right? You have no skills but the field. And then around this time, you heading into the first industrial revolution, where the railroads and the steam engines and the manufacturing, you have no skills of that. And then look at it from this aspect. So you go to jail for not having a job. But the man that's putting you in jail is in charge of you getting a job. So that means that if you're already going through being discriminated against, okay, yeah, no, you can't get this job. Then when the police pull you over, start asking you all kind of information and shit, oh, you got to go to jail because you don't got a job. If you sitting outside with your friends talking, that's loitering. What you doing? Moving around. You go to jail. So things that would be misdemeanors to the white man would be felonies to us. So that's what you call forwarding the affliction. Let me see what the word help says. I know the word is Izar. Yep. Izar. So say to help, succor, support. So you support it through your wicked decrees. Matter of fact, let's get that scripture. You supported the affliction by your wicked decrees. And what I love about the scripture is because it's a living book. So the Lord required what's past. That's the scripture that I started with. But all of this still is in play today. All of this is in play today because he's still writing wicked decrees. Matter of fact, the charagma that's coming on the scene, that's a wicked decree telling you that you got to take this, put something inside your body. And if you don't put it inside your body, you can't even participate in my society. You can't eat, you can't drink, you can't conduct business. That's a wicked decree. Oh, let's talk about the snake oil that happened during the pandemic that people put inside their arms. If you don't put this inside your arm, you can't work. That's a wicked decree. But I'm going back all the way back to the foundation. All right. From slavery to now. But I'm talking about another slavery by another name. So whoever watched this video, I suggest you watch that documentary. You probably came across it before, whoever watches this. But yeah. So it said, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. Decrees are laws that write grievousness, which they have prescribed, which means that they already have it on the books and they wait for the perfect time to sign it into law, to ratify it. So they already have these wicked ass laws on the books and they wait for a perfect situation to pass it. That's what the devil do. His whole goal is they only consult to cast him. Who is the him? Israel. All right. Israelite men. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse. And that's the white man for you. He'll smile in your face all time, want to take your place, a backstab. But that's him. Yeah. So even though, guess what? The Temptations, if I'm not mistaken, I think they was talking about Esau. But then again, it could have been talking about Jake, because Jake will backstab you too. But we on Esau's ass, because he the one that's in control of everything. He actually, the Lord gave him the dominion of the earth. And if he was a righteous man, the world would be ran in righteousness. If he was a righteous man, I wouldn't even be making this video right now. The men of the Lord wouldn't even have to be making a video right now. All right. But the point is that his whole purpose is to cast you down for your excellency. Let me see what excellency means. Sha'ath. Elevation, exaltation, dignity. See? So that's the spirit that he gave us. Remember, we have a spirit. He said that we will be a special people above all people. That's our excellency. So guess what he's going to do? Nah, nigga. That's what he says. Nah, you Latino. Nah, you Indian. You are what I call you. So casting us down from our excellency, that's what he do. But then, damn, that thought just escaped me. It's going to come back, Lord willing. Oh, I can't even remember. But anyways, you got to pay, man. Who possess or slay them and hold himself not guilty. So, like, when you start looking at the history, reading about the history, seeing pictures of our history, seeing our people, we was on postcards, we was on stamps. They really passed around these pictures. And then when you look at these pictures, you see a so-called black man hanging, and then you see a whole group of white people smiling, pointing, basically having a party. So they did this and they think that they got away. They ain't gonna get away. They got a lot to pay for. So it said, who possess or slay them and hold himself not guilty. And they say, and they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich, and their own shepherd pity them not. Because the Lord, matter of fact, let's get that. This is what they think. That's why it says that blessed be Yahweh, right? What's that? 50 and 21. Yep. These things has you done, and I kept silent. So this is why they say, blessed be the Lord. Their own shepherds pity them not. Because see, the Lord allowed this, not understanding. See, now the rulers that be know who we are, but the regular everyday Edomite, they've been lied to. They don't know who we are. So those were the ones that was doing the heinous acts. The top, the small hats, the rulers of the people, they knew who we were. They didn't tell the people under them who we were. So they really, really had. So the small hats is the finance of our downfall. That's why they got to pay the most. That's why they're going to be the first ones in chains. Say bind their kings with fetters of iron. So in the time of slavery, they letting us go. You still had the same way, the same as it is now. That which is that which shall be. All right. So the same as is now, you have poor white people. You have white people who feels, we call them Edomites, but for the sake of the video, if a new person watch, you got to say white people. But yeah, so white people, back then, You had poor people, all right, and that's where the vigilante groups came from. So when we so-called got let go from slavery, that's where the KKK from and other groups, because they feared that we was their competition, which in our reality, yes, we were, all right, because guess what? Every white person didn't own slaves. You still had poor, illiterate white people, the same as you do to this day. Because the one thing about the devil, he don't distribute his wealth among his people the way he should. He only care about his bottom line and the people that's in his immediate family. All right. So you got the Illuminati bloodline, which is a very small number compared to the masses of his own nation. All right. So that's how it was. So going back, it said, these things have thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one as yourself, but I will reprove you and set them in order before your eyes. So yeah, you didn't consider your last end. You gotta pay. You gotta pay. And then, so you got the black laws. Then you had the 3-strike rule. Then you had the war on drugs. You gotta pay, man. Then when Barack Obama, who is a Hamite, but our people don't know that. They think that he's one of our people. So-called black man, right, is in office. That's when cops was killing Jakes left and right. Every day was a video of a cop blowing a Jake away. You have to pay for it. And guess what? Double-edged sword. Because the Lord is the one that put us in his hand because of our disobedience. But that don't mean he ain't going to pay. Because as the scripture said, you helped for the affliction. He was a little displeased. The hate in your heart that you have for us, you shown it and you showing it, and you going to pay for it. And that's why he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. This is the faith and the patience of the saints. Revelation 13 verse 9 and 10. So you got to pay, and you will pay. And I hope that the Lord allow me to stay alive to see everything. But if I do die in the truth, I'm going to come back anyway to still have your ass. All right. So hopefully this video was edifying, and shalom.